afternoon, everyone. Now that everybody's had the full stomach and ready to go to sleep, we'll try not to make you fall asleep like Mom does at every meeting that we have. But today, we're going to talk about Citrix 1 year later and what's coming up, what's new with Citrix. So to start out, everybody loves pull everywhere, anywhere, whatever it's called. Go ahead and pull up your device, and you can text Ohio DOT 01 to 2223. Let us know if what's your thoughts or what's your experience so far with the Citrix environment. Be nice, please.
Is that you?
That is not me.
The texting ring.
Who put VMware for life?
That was Dan.
Dan. Has everybody had a try?
No.
It won't allow you to cuss words in.
That's not true. All right, that was fun while it lasted. All right, so what we're going to be going over during the presentation, 1 year later, ODOT plus Citrix, Citrix share file, and the future of endpoints. So to start out, we have 1 year later. What does that mean? So 141,173. So if you still have your devices out, go ahead and pull them up, and we'll do a little Jeopardy. What do you think 141,173 represents? Number of times a month it's fallen asleep. That's not in here because it's true.
We love to fire people.
Some of us are.
Some of us.
Looking to be fired?
Potentially.
I can't imagine.
All right, so most of you think it's the number of apps launched this past year. Second place is number of users who have accessed Citrix in the past year. So correct answer is 1. Number of apps launched in 1 year. 141,173 times an application has been launched via Citrix. That's pretty good. All right, up next, 386. So your options are number of launches per day, number of external users,
That's false.
number of Citrix users at ODOT, number of days Wally has left on his vacation time.
Wow.
It's kind of close. Pretty close. Oh. So we got a tie for number of launches per day and number of Citrix users at ODOT. Oh, Citrix users just took over. 386, number of apps launched per day. In the last year, 386 apps launched per day. 9,600. And no, it's not bot rate.
We need to get some shotgun technology.
Hit that turbo.
Number of site manager launches in the past 30 days, how fast the connection is at Citrix, number of app servers.
Number of access apps via browser, number of apps launched in 1 year. Alright. So 71% think it's Site Manager. Answer is yep. 9,600 launches of Site Manager in the past 30 days. So, huh?
Alex.
Yeah, I think there's a trend going on here.
How many successful launches did we have?
9,600.
That just says launch, we didn't say if they were successful.
I think you're being caught somewhere. All right, last. Is this the last one? Two more. 1604. Number of times it's launched external in the past 30 days, Site Manager in the past 30 days, CMS portal pages in the past 30 days. Launched. Man, you tried hard on this, didn't you? Yeah, I think you guys have figured it out. Number of times Site Manager launched from an external connection in the past 30 days. So almost a little over 1,600 times it's been launched externally in the past 30 days. Last but not least, 690. I mean, seriously. Ding, 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 you're all there.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you.
Number of times CMS portal page was launched via Citrix in the past 30 days. Wally's going to talk about ShareFile.
So what we're going to do is give you a little introduction to what ShareFile is, if everybody doesn't know what it is. We're going to play a video for you, and then we're going to discuss the applications that we have and when it's available. This is, and I'm going to think next. Okay, hi.
Work the way you want.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Short and sweet.
Work the way you want with Citrix ShareFile. Get simple, secure access plus streamlined collaboration capability on any device, anytime. With ShareFile, you can easily access and share all your files and documents on any device, anytime. Everything you need is accessible in a simple menu customized to your unique needs. Limitless storage and a convenient email plugin make it easy to send large files without clogging email. Plus, bank-level encryption protects messages and attachments in transit and at rest. Get secure access to files and folders stored with on-network shares and with third-party providers. You can connect to SharePoint, OneDrive, Box, Google Drive, and more directly from your account, regardless of environment or endpoint. Our Office 365 integration allows for real-time co-editing and versioning. Plus, with real-time tracking, you always know exactly where things stand. Welcome to Citrix ShareFile, where business-class file sharing meets real-time collaboration.
If Bo didn't know, Amon made the background. If you're hiring as a video editor, there's no.
It's an inappropriate use of ODOT.
It's not the right color. So what does that mean to us? So what we can do with ShareFile is it allows us to use our drives internally and externally without a VPN connection. It's still a secure connection. We two-factor auth with those files as well. But now those people that need Site Manager didn't have drives before when we first made Citrix public, they'll have that now. They'll have that via the browser, they'll have that via their phone, they'll have it via their workstation. So now we can have a seamless integration both on premises and off premises with your network drive. So you don't have to remap them when you go off and you undock your laptop and come back and forth between networks. It will always be available. And what can we provide you? We can provide you with your network shares that you have already. We can provide you with the SharePoint sites if need be. And that is both when we can mount our OneDrive or Business Drive and the OIT SharePoint drive. drives as well. So that's available to us. This also allows us to share files in our emails. So you know the 25 meg upload and we have to use liquid files or whatever. We don't need to do that anymore. It allows us to send a secure link through your email to a file referenced on ShareFile or SharePoint, your W drive, your X drive, your O drive, whatever that may be.
Is it just internal or external as well?
Yes, your answer is yes.
All the above.
All the above.
What's the size limitation on that?
There is
There is
none,
none.
because what it is, it resides on, we just send a 72 or.
Yeah, we sent two files to Kentucky DOT, or they're called something different on there, but Kentucky DOT, one was a 53 gig file, the other one was a 17 gig file, so.
Did that. Okay.
Replace content locker?
It
Yes.
will. So, when is this ready? It's ready today. How are we gonna push out the agents in the near future to all the Windows endpoints? We'll push it all to the iOS devices and the little Android devices that we have, we'll do that. And through your browser, you can access that through your browser as well. It's all NTLM Kerberos authentication, so you just open your browser, log into the site, or it auto logs you in. To your question, what does it replace? This will replace Secure Content Locker, FTP, SFTP, liquid files, and your email attachments. Now, any program that needs the SFTP or FTP sites, you can still code against that to do that. But for us, the end user doesn't have to contact the IT department to post this on liquid files or to post this on your FTP site or SFTP site. They can do that by right-clicking the button and sharing that file out. You can make the link expire, you can make it read-only, you can watermark it, you can make it only download X amount of times, and you also can redact those in case that you don't want to push those back out anymore. So, any questions?
Can you give us a demo of it?
Yes.
I can. Not today.
Not today,
We
though.
would be more than happy to give you a demo of it.
You a bad son.
We're already bought it, we're not committed, so it doesn't matter.
You're feeding the Citrix guys
Yes.
back here because they're like, you should probably do a demo.
I know you guys have monitoring, but I'm just gonna just play devil's advocate
Yes.
here. Let's say the user opens things up that they shouldn't have, because it's easy to do now. How would we know, or will we know?
Yeah, so it audits, the reporting on this thing is ridiculous. It tells you when it was opened, who it was opened by, what IP address, where out in the country it was opened by, how many times they opened it, if they forwarded it on, if they downloaded it, if they printed it. I mean, the auditing in this tool is pretty sick. It's a pretty.
And then we can take those tools and then ship, realistically, we take those tools, ship the service now, and they have APIs against it, and you can say, hey, if X, Y, and Z, it'll profile. So let's say that you're a typical user and you download less than a gig a month. And then we look at you and say, oh, Jordan's downloading 50 gigs today, 50 gigs tomorrow, 50 gigs. Right.
Yeah.
On ODOT machines.
Yeah.
So we can profile you and then set a reaction based on that limitation, because you have a profile of you. And if you deviate from that, it allows for auto healing, auto whatever. I'll shut the account down, you can lock your account out, so you can't access the stuff.
So you would have the ability to,
Yes,
to look for common paths
Yep.
in the surface,
Yeah.
and without interfering with the normal daily business
Right.
everybody does.
Absolutely.
The other question I have is, if we share a link with an external person, what's required on their end to access the file to say who they are?
Depends how we set it up, or even the end user themselves, they have the ability. You can make them log in. You can make them put their username or full name, last name, email address. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different settings that we can set as an organization, and then you as yourself set when you send those files out. It says, hey, I want this information to know who is downloading what. So.
And then you can tell if you forwarded it on and they said, I forwarded it to you and you never got it. There's the audit trail that says, yes, you did, you just never opened it. So there's a plethora of information inside of it that we can read against.
Now, is that sending to a single user or multiple users?
Yes, your answer is yes. We.
Say the whole thing in French. That's what I thought.
All right, so next up, Steve from Citrix. Steve and Dan are here representing Citrix, and they're going to go over how ODOT and Citrix is going to be changing the user experience in the near future.
Just close the lid.
Do you want to do this?
you have an IT person?
No.
All right. Okay, let's get started. Oh, well, what's going on?
Your thing's not plugged in all the way.
Citrix isn't compatible with this projector.
Call the help desk.
No one's answering.
It's on.
Oh, that's pretty neat, huh?
This is some less you had, so.
There's an opening at Citrix. Resumes can be sent here.
Maybe you have to click the other button.
There's only
Oh, when in doubt, restart, right?
The answer's A.
We might be able to do this one.
There we go. Sorry about that.
It's all right, that's about how well our overheads work.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
It's Wally's fault.
Let's try this again. Let's try this again. We did test this before I got up here, and
That's
it's
not where, no, we didn't.
you. Of course this is. I think this will work.
Do you have a spare one? Where's Sean's?
There we go. Okay, about time. All right. Okay, let's just do this. Since we had this, okay, let's try this. All right, about time. All right, thanks everybody for the patience, appreciate it. Let's get this thing in presentation mode. So, really appreciate everybody letting us kind of come back this year and participate in the conference. So I'm Steve Arrington, I'm the senior engineer that kind of supports Dan, who's our sales rep. So what we're going to be talking about today is what we call the intelligent workspace. So it's kind of changing the paradigm of kind of how people work today. You know, Charles earlier was talking about, you know, the amount of time and things it takes for even when it's looking into transportation, like the amount of congestion and things that are, you know, on the roads, how much money that adds up to, how much time that is lost, right? I think he said $3 billion of revenue lost just because of the amount of time and congestion on the roads, right? So in our daily lives, as we go to work, right, and what we do in our jobs while we work, is we have congestion on a daily basis, right? That congestion can be made up of how we do our job, right? So a survey was done by Gallup, and 31 million people responded. And what they came up with was essentially a whole lot of information that really showed that employees are bombarded on a day-to-day basis with lots of apps, lots of data, lots of places to go. I'm switching between 10, 15 apps during my day to try to do my job, and you kind of get lost in the shuffle. And really what that creates is you get disengaged at work, right? So what we have, as far as numbers, is what was estimated in 2017 in 1 year was $1.4 trillion of lost activity, right? So if you take what an employee makes across all 31 million respondents, they estimated $1.4 trillion in lost wages to organizations, you know, across the world. That's a large number, right? So what do we want to do is try to reduce that, right? Get employees more engaged. So a couple other stats that came out of this, you know, I'm going to kind of put all four of these on the board. I'll let you guys read them, but one of the ones I want to call out, you guys can probably all verify this too, but 23% of your time on average is spent in email. I think that's low. I think it's probably higher because we use our email for everything, right? Communication, a lot of us use it for a file box to store all of our files, which is not what it's intended for, but that's what ends up happening. But you end up checking it 36 times an hour. That's probably pretty accurate. I think, you know, we go into an app, we do something, we get that little alert from Outlook that says, hey, let's go look at our email quick. Oh, while I'm in here, there's 3 or 4 others. Oh, I gotta get back to my app. Oh, I gotta go back to my email. That's what we start seeing, right? So, you know, the stats on the screen are just examples of the disruption that we get in our daily lives, right? So what we're trying to do is figure out, you know, what are the main problems? Well, we have too many applications that we have. 141,000 launches is pretty impressive, and that's only, what, a handful of apps that you guys have published right now?
Yep.
So there's a lot of applications out there. There's a lot of complexity sometimes with all these apps. There's a lot of interruptions as a result. So what this equals is people try to stop using this stuff as much, right? You make investments in software, but then it doesn't get consumed. You have too much searching. I think we all spend a lot of our day, and at least I know I do a lot of times, I'm searching in file shares. Where's this file? Where's this SharePoint site? Where do I go to get this information? I want to know what the dress code is in this particular district on this particular day. How do I find that information? You're going all over the place to find this information, right? It's hard to find it, which again causes us to lose focus. So together with ODOT, we believe that there's a better way to deliver an end user experience when it comes to delivering out applications. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. Right? So what we believe is that the future of work is where we're creating a more productive environment for our end users, that your apps and data are going to be more secure, and you can provide the organization, IT as a whole, the agility to move with business, right? As Charles talked about, there's going to be a lot of changes and shifting over the next several years as far as how IT delivers solutions out, just based on the shifts of transportation in general, right? So when we look at IT, we want to make sure that we look at that and go, whatever we're going to start delivering, it needs to be very agile, and we need to shift as the business is shifting. And so that's what I'm going to actually show you guys here today. So let's take a look at the new workspace. All right, so let's log in. So going to my demo site. So here's what I'm going to show you guys. This is what the new future of the workspace is going to be like. So before I start running through all this, how many people use Facebook? Just a show of hands. I don't have your poll app, but I'm sure almost everybody in here uses Facebook, right? Everybody's used to that Facebook feed. You hit it, it's like, oh, what's important today? What's everybody doing? That's what we've tried to create right here in the center, is a feed, a daily feed for you on how you operate. And that feed is customized to every user using artificial intelligence as well as identity profiles that start to get built over time. It sees how you work, what apps you access, what things are important to you even inside of those applications. For example, as we start to scroll down, I have to do a ton of training with work. As an engineer, I'm constantly having to do courses. Sometimes I don't know what those courses are, or when new ones are offered, I'll find out like 3 weeks later, and my manager calls and says, hey, why didn't you get this done, right? Now here in my feed, I see, hey, there's a new course available. But now, as you guys can see on the lower right, that course is held in SAP SuccessFactors. It's a training program. Normally, and this is where we're also changing the paradigm here, is I'm going to have to open that application. I'm likely going to have to browse over to a different tab, and then inside that tab, click about 10 or 15 more times until I actually get to the course that I need to register, right? What if this feed could use what we call micro app technology, and I can simply click on it. Great, this is who's leading it, this is when it starts, here's where it's at, hit register, done. That was 2 clicks, what used to take me 15 to 20, right? So it has the ability to look inside your applications, take out the fields that are most important to you, and then deliver them to the end user, right? And that being you. Expense reports, again, same example. We have an expense report system which is just, it's very cumbersome. I have to launch an app, I have to 2-factor into that application. After I'm inside that app, I have to actually click on all the expenses, take a look at the expense reports, review everything, and hit approve. It takes about, probably, if I actually don't look at everything, probably 3 minutes just to get through to approve a single expense report. Here, click on expense report, I can review the expenses, I can either send it back, or I can hit approve. And down here on the left, you see it says it's been approved, right? So these are micro apps. These are taking what normally used to take you a lot more time across 10, 15, 20 apps, if you can imagine, that you're bouncing between. Everything is now right in front of you into a feed, right? For example, here's another one, ServiceNow, right? Oftentimes, you're gonna need to submit an incident. I think you guys, I've used ServiceNow, I know you gotta go in, there's a lot of drop downs and things that you guys have to do to put a service request in. Right from your page now, you can put in, and again, this is a demo, so I know you guys will probably have a few more fields in here, drop downs on what is this incident pertaining to, what piece of software, that kind of thing. But I can literally go in here without even launching ServiceNow, say this is high impact, the urgency is high, and say, You know, like Wally broke something, I think, you know. So we'll go ahead and do that, hit submit. On the lower left, the incident's been submitted. I'm sure you guys open up your email, you're gonna have the incident number, and you guys will be able to track it from there. But I think what we're trying to show you guys, and the main point of this, is it's a place where we centrally organize all of your apps, all your desktops. We were publishing them, but we are not. And then all the files that Sean and Wally showed you, right? That's what's on the left. You know, if you guys need access to your personal folders, in your guys' case, that's gonna be your W drives. If you have any share folders that you guys have access to, like SharePoints and sites and things, they're gonna be in here. The point of what we're trying to create is one spot to go, not 15 to 20 different apps that you're in, one spot where all of your apps are there. And not only that, the apps that are there, we try to take the important little bits out of there and put them right in front of you. And that's constantly and dynamically changing. So one thing Sean and Wally asked me to do is, well, that's great, that's a demo one, but what if I'm in HR? What does a dashboard like that look like, right? So what I'm gonna do here is show you guys, there's multiple ways that you can create this. There's multiple personas. Here's a few that I have here, but if I was somebody that was in, say I'm in onboarding, this is very, very common, by the way. HR people, everybody always struggles with an onboarding process, right? Because there's just many different things and systems people need access to. But same thing for HR, as you can see here. For an HR person, we have recommended actions, right? Do we need to request a service for somebody? What is that rate? Give me a description of it. I might need to order an item that we could here. I may need to get a decimal for somebody because they're new, or a mobile phone because there's a sales rep out in the field, or you guys have a construction manager that just started and they need a mobile phone, right? These are normally things, and whatever system that you guys are using, you don't have to go into that system and search in that catalog. You can do it right here. You make the catalog available. So for HR, this is a little bit easier for somebody in HR. This is probably my favorite, new employee hired. I don't know about you guys, but when I was not at Citrix and I'd walk around my last company, I would see new faces all the time, and I'm like, who is that, right? You never know, because management sometimes forgets to send emails out that says, hey, so-and-so joined our team, or they send it like 2 months after they started. You see here, hey, a new employee was hired. That's great, tells you who it is, where they work, you can hit submit. So I think you guys get the idea. These are customized to use the end user. The more you use it, the more it learns about what's important to you, and it puts that into a Facebook style feed, if you will. So that's pretty much all I have for that demo there. That's what we're going to be working with the team to kind of look at over the course of the next year, is just how can we improve that experience of the applications you guys are using today. As they deliver more and more apps out through Citrix, how can we provide a better user experience for you? That's what we're going to be focused on as well. So appreciate the time for that. So we're going to jump back in. I promise I only have 2 more slides, and that's going to be pretty much it. So let me go back to here. Did anybody have any questions on what they saw there?
Is the micro app a concept within your product?
Sort of, yes. So the micro app is a concept in our product that allows you to front end it into a Citrix environment. But the interesting thing about the micro apps, and it's a great question, I will answer it here in a minute. We actually integrate with a lot of out-of-the-box software, but we're actually going to provide you guys a tool to take existing applications and try to make them into micro apps that we can deliver through Citrix as well.
Good, because that was my next question.
Yep. So I'll fly through this then. So this is just a recap. We talked about the things earlier about the complexities, all the busy work, the apps. The solutions that I just showed, we are trying to organize things better. We're trying to help guide you with that Facebook style feed. We're trying to automate some actions for you. Those are those one-click actions instead of 15 clicks to approve something. It's one, right? And then of course, again, this is just a recap of what you saw, but again, it's a Facebook style feed. That's what's kind of highlighted in orange. We already covered that. The notifications, there's tasks and things that pop up in there for you. The insights, you know, what's important to you in that day, if there's announcements and things, all that stuff gets put in that center feed. And again, that is not something that Sean and Wally necessarily would set. That is something that just starts to learn what you're doing, and it presents that information, right? It's just like Facebook. It learns what you like. And again, access to apps, desktops, files. The one thing I did not show you, which I totally forgot about, but there's a search feature. We talked about all that time wasted searching. You spend about 20% of your life searching for stuff. We have like a virtual assistant up there now that you can literally just type in what you're thinking, the way you're thinking it. It will interpret that and then spit out what it thinks you're looking for. Kind of like a Google search, if you will, but a little more intelligent. All right, so getting to your question, micro apps. So there's over 100 out-of-box workflows. I threw a few on the screen, like Office 365. I know you guys are users of that. I showed you a demo of the ServiceNow. That's a lot more customizable. But again, right out of the box, there's over 100 different workflows from 100 different vendors. That list is constantly growing every quarter. That list seems to, I would say, grow by 25% or so per quarter. So obviously you go 100, 125, it's going to start to extrapolate out at a lot faster rate as more and more vendors are starting to develop their apps to have this ability. How that works is through APIs. Okay, so what we are presenting you is what we call Micro App Builder. What the Micro App Builder essentially is API driven. So if any of the applications you have can integrate with an API or can be programmed to talk to APIs, you can put it in the Micro App Builder and try to actually make something a micro app. It's a drag and drop builder. So essentially, let's say you take that executable, you put it into the builder. It's going to read the executable, it's going to look for APIs, it's going to use its own, and it's going to take a look through here down the left and present you with all the actions it sees, it can make into one of those micro apps where you can put those fields. It's a drag and drop. This is an example, you can't see it real well, but it's an expense report. So it's reading what can I put in there, what vendor it was, what was the charge, how many days has that been outstanding. So for the apps that you guys have, you'll be able to put it into this builder and try to turn things into micro apps. So again, for even homegrown apps, you can certainly give it a try. Does that answer your question that you had? Okay, great. And really, to kind of really close it out, this is probably a great marketing slide, but at the end of the day, we're trying to make people more productive. We're trying to increase your engagement. And of course, this equals a better employee experience. So, so that's all I have. I really appreciate the time, guys. And looks like we have another question. Sure.
The feed, can we send stuff to the feed either like generally or to specific people or groups?
Yeah, so the way that the feed works is that obviously, like I said, it learns things, but there's going to be certain parameters that you're going to put in there, right? You're going to put things in like that HR one, for example. There's going to be a stream, and there's going to be somebody that you can assign as kind of like an administrator, if you will, to put things like that into that feed. A new employee was hired, right? That's just not knowing that just because in some system an employee was hired. You have to set those things up, for that feed as well. So there's kind of these personas, you can actually create them by department, which is what you saw there. But in general, once you create that persona of things that you'd have access to in that feed, it will start to learn and fill in accordingly.
I'm kind of thinking of things like Cronus is down, like
Yes.
What I see happening there potentially is, we're getting ready to deploy Microsoft Teams to the enterprise, and I could see an integration between this and Teams where you have a channel for general outage announcements or whatever, and when someone posts something to that channel in Teams, it'll pop on the feed within the Citrix workspace for the users who have access to that channel. That's kind of how I foresee that. I think we should use Teams for that kind of thing, but certainly it appears as though that could be integrated into the Citrix.
Sure. Another question?
Is there a dark mode?
Dark mode. I don't know. Does Facebook have a dark mode?
So does,
That's probably like version 26.
so does the product itself expose an API that allows us to integrate with it from the outside, like the workspace?
So are you saying does the micro app or does Citrix in general have an API that you can
Yeah, I mean,
expose
like
to?
the Citrix where somebody from outside could use an API that you are exposing to interface with.
That's actually kind of how it works. So if you guys have an application, for example, you're talking about how I feed the feed, there's going to be an API that's going to be available that you can go into do that feed. So something to note, there's not in general, entire Citrix product API, because as you can imagine from a security perspective, probably not the greatest idea, but we do have APIs that you can call into the app, into the feed, to start putting information inside of that, outside of what it's automatically going to learn. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how we're going to build a strong relationship between ODOT and Citrix. So a couple things that we want to go over. Cloud control plane. Everybody says cloud. It's a buzzword right now. The big thing that we want to point out here, we renewed our Citrix license with Citrix. And what this does is
with the new licensing scheme, when ODOT is ready, and we're not saying that we're going to be ready anytime soon, but when ODOT is ready, we will have a smoother transition to move from on-prem to cloud, or more likely it's going to be a hybrid solution. So as of right now, going into the next slide, infrastructure refresh. So because we're not ready for the cloud, with this fiscal year, our plan is to do an infrastructure refresh. So a lot of you have heard us talk in the past about the new Tanix equipment that VMware was running on. A lot of that's getting long in the tooth, so we're going to be replacing that. So what does that buy you guys? What that buys is faster, better, more reliable equipment, so that we can push more applications out to more users at a quicker rate. So, next thing is application onboarding. So the numbers that we saw at the beginning of the presentation were awesome. We're pretty proud of the numbers. We was kind of shocked when we pulled those up, to be honest. But that's only a small subset of the applications we have inside of Citrix. We have a lot more applications that we're going to be onboarding at a much higher rate of speed, and that's what we plan on doing with them. And then last but not least is ServiceNow integration. Citrix has invested highly in with ServiceNow to come up with APIs, and I've worked together between the two organizations. So we're going to leverage that. We have our own ServiceNow environment, so we're going to try to integrate the Citrix environment inside of our ServiceNow environment, just to make it more better.
Were any of you guys here last year?
Yes.
Like at the conference? Well, hopefully all of you were. There might be some new faces. We showed a video of that last year. The underlying idea behind how that works is in your ServiceNow catalog, you'll be able to, when you want to, like today you request access to something like an app or whatever, you'll be able to go in there, select one of the apps that's in Citrix, hit a drop-down menu, and after you hit submit, if they have like an approval workflow, like it's something everybody gets, the minute you hit approve, if you go over to your Citrix session and hit refresh, you'll have the app. So instead of waiting for multiple processes to kick off, somebody to go in, give you access, all those things that might take a couple hours or maybe a day or two, can be done in a matter of seconds.
So
That's the integration they're referring to.
what we also like to do is, you saw those micro apps. What we want to do is take that app that we're going to integrate into ServiceNow and put it as a micro app. So if you do deliver those applications, it's a click of a button on the right-hand side. That's it. You can approve the button to install, or approve the software to install it, and then you're good to go. So empowering the future of endpoints, Citrix and ODOT. So what does that mean for the future of endpoints? So we're going to stream a lot more application. That means that right now we have Windows 10 endpoints. We're going to slim down the image. There's no need to have, for the most part, to have a database driver or some type of database that sits on the image. Because what does a database need? Network. If you don't have network, you're not accessing anything else, right? So we're going to take those and we're going to extrapolate that from the image and put it into Citrix. That way when you access something that requires a database, it will be on the Citrix environment, and that'll slim down the image. So that reduces our footprint for a security attack, and it will make it a more secure, more streamlined image, and on image quicker. Didn't say OSHA. Nope, OSHA. What else do we have? iOS devices. Now, everybody knows there's iPads laying around and nobody uses, right? So, with the advent of iOS 13, it allows us with mouse support. So what we can do is turn those toys into an actual laptop. So we can provide you perhaps a desktop or streaming apps. With iOS 13, you can do full-fledged Bluetooth keyboard and mouse onto a desktop for those iPads. So we don't need to buy more iPads if necessary. We also will still support Androids. Same premise behind those. You can still run Citrix from a streamed app, share a file, everything from an Android device. And what we're looking at now is potentially with a MDM solution, we can control Chromebooks. Now, what does this mean for us? What this allows us to give somebody a $200 Chromebook. Because if I give you this laptop, right, this is not just $1,200. It is $1,200 plus whatever stack of security software is on it, plus an IT time, and so on and so forth, right? So that's cost. That's IT cost. And if we're tasked to save $100 million, whatever that number is, we can allow a $200 Chromebook out, have it auto-enrolled, and I don't care if it gets run over by a dump truck or gets poured cement over, it doesn't matter at that point, it's pointless. So we can use a Chromebook to consume Windows services. That way we can save money, reduce our footprint, reduce the cost, reduce everything else. So this is the direction we would like to go, to test it out, to make sure that we can save money for the state of Ohio. I think we have a question. So, anybody have any questions on anything that we've presented so far, or have not covered?
This might be an offline question, but
Yes.
we had discussed earlier about like a developer desktop,
Yes.
power user type desktop.
Mhm.
Because I can really see that working. I'm just curious whether that's a type of profile that Citrix themselves has. Like I'm a web developer and I want to be able to have access to the tools and stuff, but it would probably be more like I'm actually remoting into remote apps and there's somehow the interfaces to them are all there. I
So-
was just wondering.
What we do is, from the beginning, how we designed any new technology we ingest on board, everything has to tie to a global group. So based on that global group, let's say it's Visual Studios, insert next year here, right? So we'll give you, put Mike Jordan into that group, and no matter where you log into, based on that global group, you have that software rights and license rights to that application. So you can log on to Citrix, and you'll have that either icon and or desktop, depending, and you can consume that application via that global group. So no matter where you go, you are the net sum of all your global groups.
I mean, I get that part. I was more actually thinking, just asking them as a general question, if they have customers that have created profiles like that and what they look like.
You
don't
guys
have
want me to
answer
answer that
right
question?
now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, that is probably one of the top 5 use cases that people deploy Citrix, is developers. They need what, a workstation? What do you guys spend on one, like $8,000 for a developer workstation, depending on how much development that they do?
Jack's the same as that.
Between 4 and 8, right? Yeah, it's an iPhone, right? You give people iPhones. At the end of the day, it's a great use case because developers require a lot of horsepower, and they're talking about doing an infrastructure refresh. You get a lot more bang for your buck out of delivering, pardon my French, a virtual desktop
That's English.
to. Oh, that's right. Man, I was called out. All right, so pardon my English. But at the end of the day, you can deliver. A great example is, deliver a virtual desktop. That's probably one of the top 5 use cases we have because you can put a lot of horsepower in the data center behind it. But not only that, you load their apps and things that they use on it. But at the end of the day, developers tend to sometimes, no offense if there's one in the room, destroy a machine. And then you got to re-image that machine. That takes a lot of time. I was in IT for 12 years, by the way, so I'm speaking for a lot of experience there. What you do with those desktops is you can give them a machine, do what you guys need to do to destroy it. Hit a button when they're done with it, refresh, done, in a matter of seconds versus however long it takes to blow away and re-image a developer desktop. So that's very, very common use case for us.
Yeah, so Mike, we want to start, like we had that conversation a couple weeks ago. We'll probably start next week or in a couple weeks to get a sit down with you and probably Eugene's group to come up with what that developer looks like. Because we, like these guys said, we've talked to a lot of Citrix customers that's what they use Citrix for as development. So.
Now, my next question is, teach them how to program better.
That's what that machine learning's for.
You can probably publish a learning software out through it.
Question for you.
Yeah.
So before deployment, can we, the IT folks, get to have calls from the users on troubleshooting? Can we actually get a chance to beta test it
Yeah.
ourselves
Yeah.
before deployment, not after?
What do you want to test?
Just
Yes.
how it works.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we have to know exactly what to tell them when they call.
Right.
And no offense to anybody.
You know, excuse your French.
Yeah, but we tend to get things afterwards, and then we get like, okay, well, I'll figure out how to troubleshoot it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like to play with it first before it's actually given to everybody else. So at least I know what to say when the problem comes, because I've had a chance to make those mistakes and then fix those mistakes per se. At least if we're allowed to fix those things, I mean, besides the fact calling you guys, say, hey, this is broken, fix it yourself.
Right.
So I mean, do we get that chance?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for people to test stuff. I mean, honestly, we don't have enough testers.
mean, there's 12 districts. I mean, you have, you choose one out of 12. I mean,
So
each
you're
12.
volunteering?
Yeah, he's volunteering.
Yeah, no, but I mean, seriously though, I mean, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room will test the fact that we kind of like to have our hands on things first before the users get them.
Right.
You know, so that at least we know what to tell them and know how to best help them.
Understand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Any
Russ?
snide remarks for Citrix, they go to the sales guy in the back.
Make sure you're in that WSS test group with help for testing, because any application testing, anything like that, to hit that group before we do anything else.
Any questions now? I go in.
Send an email to these guys.
Use your micro app and service now and create
Well, thanks everyone, appreciate it.
Nice work, guys.